Hi, I'm Sharon Harrell, Community Engagement Manager at the Detroit Institute of Arts. Thank you for tuning into Black History Month events at the DIA. Black History Month programming is made possible with the generous support of Arn and Nancy Tellum, with additional support provided by TD Bank. Welcome to Wine Down Wednesdays, a cocktail and cooking showcase featuring African American chefs and mixologists. The program will start with video demonstrations followed by a live discussion and Q&A. Tonight, we're doing vegetarian. Chef Ederique Goudias will prepare Gumbo herbs, which is gumbo of greens, and sommelier Randall Coats will pair that dish with the perfect cocktails. As you enjoy the demonstrations, please enter your questions in the designated comment section. Now let's get started with Chef Ederique Goudias, followed by sommelier Randall Coats.
Of greens. So this gumbo is going to look slightly different than your traditional dark roux gumbo that's flavored with animal proteins such as chicken, sausage, or even shrimp. Matter of fact, this gumbo doesn't even contain okra. It does, however, contain 7 or 9 different varieties of different greens, which makes this gumbo perfect for vegetarians or even those looking for a healthier alternative to a traditional gumbo. What I really love most about the Gumbo herbs is that I'm able to purchase all of my greens locally. So by creating this dish, I'm actually able to support all of my local farmers. So the initial ingredients that you'll need for this dish are very typical of a traditional gumbo. We'll start by making a roux, which is a combination of equal parts flour and fat. I prefer to use regular all-purpose flour and just vegetable oil, but of course you can use an array of different fats to make up a roux, like butter, lard, bacon grease, or really any type of oil. And if you want to make this dish gluten-free, you're also more than welcome to use a gluten-free flour as a substitute for all-purpose. Next is our Holy Trinity, which along with the roux is the base of all Cajun and Creole cuisine. So the Holy Trinity is actually 2-part onion. So this is 2 yellow onions diced to 1 part green pepper. So this is 1 whole green pepper diced. And then to finish out the Holy Trinity, we have 1 part celery. So this is actually 2 celery ribs diced. And that's what we call our Holy Trinity in Cajun and Creole cuisine. Now to add to this, we are going to also add 6 cloves of garlic minced. We have our 4 bay leaves, 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and then 2 teaspoons of your favorite hot sauce. My favorite is either Louisiana or Crystal, but of course you can use whichever hot sauce you prefer. And then we're just going to finish that with 2 tablespoons of filet and of course salt and pepper to taste. Now we're also going to add of course 8 cups of water, and then the most important thing, which are our greens. The idea is to use 7 or 9 different types of greens in our gumbo. See, Gumbo herbs is a traditional Holy Thursday meal for Catholic families in and around New Orleans. And while the late Leah Chase, who we consider the matriarch of Creole cuisine, used 9 different types of greens as well as a ton of meat, our gumbo today will be completely meatless, so it will be vegetarian, as well as we'll be using 7 different types of greens. See, the main thing to remember is to use an odd number, as is it said, to bring luck. And the number of greens that you use will be the number of friends that you make this year. So today we are using 7 different types of greens. So today we have collard greens. We also have some Swiss chard, as well as mustard greens, turnips, kale. We also have some cabbage and spinach. So I did go ahead and take the large stems out of my greens. I'm gonna go ahead and chop this up as well. But this is 3 pounds of greens. This is what we're gonna use today. So this does look like a lot, but this is actually only 3 pounds of greens. So now that we have all of our ingredients that we're gonna need to make our gumbo herbs, we're gonna go ahead and get started on that roux. We are starting our roux with 4 tablespoons of flour and 4 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Remember, our roux is just a combination of equal parts fat and flour. So we have our all-purpose flour and our vegetable oil, and we just want to make sure that this doesn't burn. So we'll just keep stirring until it reaches a nice kind of peanut butter or golden brown color. Then we'll add our diced celery, green bell peppers, and diced yellow peppers, and we'll let that cook until our vegetables are soft. So remember, your roux will continue to cook and darken once we add our Holy Trinity, which is our onions, bell peppers, and celery. So we just want to make sure that we continue to keep a close eye on it so that our roux does not burn. So once this becomes a nice peanut butter color, then we'll go ahead and add our Holy Trinity. So now that our roux is a nice golden brown kind of peanut butter color, this is the perfect time to go ahead and add our Holy Trinity, which is our diced celery, our diced green peppers, and our diced yellow onions. So keep in mind, our roux will continue to cook now that we've added our Holy Trinity. We want to make sure we give that a nice stir. And we're going to let this cook down at about medium heat until our vegetables are nice and soft. So now that our vegetables are nice and soft, so our Holy Trinity, our onions, bell peppers, and celery are nice and soft and blended really well with our roux, we're going to go ahead and add our 6 cloves of minced garlic, our 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and our 2 tablespoons of hot sauce. To that, we're going to go ahead and add our 8 cups of water, and then we're going to go ahead and turn our heat up to high so that we can bring that up to a boil. Get a good stir. So once that comes to a boil, we will go ahead and add our greens and our bay leaves. Now that this has come to a boil, this is the perfect time for us to go ahead and add our greens. So again, we have 7 different types of greens here that we have chopped up. We have collard greens, Swiss chard, kale, turnips, mustards, cabbage, and spinach. We're just going to go ahead and add 3 pounds to our pot. Went ahead and chopped these up. We're also going to go ahead and add our 4 bay leaves. Of course, we're going to remove those later. Then we're going to go ahead and season our greens with some salt and pepper. And then we're just going to go ahead and give this a stir. We're going to reduce this down to a simmer. So we're going to reduce it down to about medium-low heat. We're going to let this cook covered for about 1.5 hours to 2 hours until our greens are nice and tender. So again, we're going to go ahead and cover this, lower our heat to medium low, and let this simmer for about an hour and a half. So our gumbo herbs have now been cooking for about 45 minutes. So we're just going to go ahead and check this, give this a nice stir. So our greens are coming right along. They're nice and tender. At this point, we're also going to go ahead and add our 2 tablespoons of filet powder to this. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and cover this again and let this simmer for an additional 45 minutes. So now that our greens have cooked for an additional 45 minutes, they have been cooking all together for an hour and a half. So as you can see, our greens are nice and tender. We are ready to take them off the fire. We have gone ahead and removed our bay leaves. So at this point, if you just want to check them to make sure your seasonings are correct, make sure you have enough salt in there, it's the spice level you want, greens are nice and tender. Now you can go ahead and turn this off the fire and then eat this as is. We're going to do one additional step. We're going to go ahead and throw these greens in the food processor to get them nice and fine. So we're going to go ahead and take this off the fire, throw some of those greens in the food processor to make it nice and fine, and then we'll be able to serve that with a side of white rice and just a little bit of gumbo filet on top. So we have our finished gumbo herbs with a side of white rice. Just go ahead and finish that with a little bit of salt and pepper. And of course, you can always top that with your favorite hot sauce or even a little bit of gumbo filet. Thank you so much for joining us.
Seen as an aperitif is going to be the Kir or Kir Royale, depending on how you're making it. Really simple cocktail built in a wine glass for the Kir. It's the Kir Royale, it's a champagne flute. What is the difference between the Kir and Kir Royale, you ask? Well, it's the type of wine. This is a cocktail with white wine or sparkling, in this case white wine. This is the Hungarian Tokai with Chambord. This is black raspberry liqueur with a blend of black and regular raspberries, and then fresh raspberries as the garnish. So this is a real, I and Nasam definitely love my wine, and I love introducing people to wine cocktails. I feel like that is a good way to enjoy wine in a different way if you've already been enjoying wine, or for people that are new to the wine world, a nice introduction, especially with this type of cocktail. I went with the Kir. I normally drink a Kir Royale, but I went with the Kir because I got a white wine that is dry yet has a very soft flavor profile to go with the Chambord, and so it's going to have more sweetness than tartness because raspberry is a very tart, fruit, and so I'm just like really easing on that tartness to make it a lot more approachable for someone who may not have had this before. Now, if you're really into tart flavor profile, definitely go for the Kir Royale. The name, does have a sense of mystique alone. But definitely, if someone just really wants to go for that tartness, it has a refreshing quality, really, really good in the summertime. But yeah, if you're really into a tart, fruity flavor profile, the Kir Royale is a drink for you. Today we're going to start with the Kir. We're using our white wine glass. This is a super straightforward cocktail that needs no tools. Just make sure that you have the proper ingredients as far as quality and that you do the right proportions. You don't want to overpour either way. That will affect the integrity of the cocktail. So I have my pour glass. Now with this cocktail, you want to start with the heavier alcohol first. So it only requires a half ounce of Chambord, just a half ounce of Chambord. And the less, sweet you want this, because the wine is already soft, it's going to encourage that sweetness. You can even do a third of an ounce of Chambord. But yeah, you really want to go light on the Chambord. To a bartender, this would be known as a splash. Yeah, just about that much. This is a 2 ounce shot glass, and I'm using that as my measuring cup. And I'm actually going to add just a little more. I'm going to get right to that half ounce. And so I'm going to add that. Then I'm going to add my fresh raspberry. I want the raspberry to get down in there. And I want the raspberry to really take over, the full flavor profile. So now we have this Tokai ferment. So this is a lesser known white wine. It's dry, it's made in a dry style. However, it does have quite a bit of residual sugar. So, it has a rounded flavor profile. Hungarian wines have a very rich history. However, not very well known, being that people make them in their backyards. People that have vineyards in Hungary, just make this wine for people to have, not to make a lot of money off of. But, if you want to travel to that part of Europe, or if you're really into, somewhat off dry, if you will, or, not bone dry white wine, this is definitely a good choice. And so now I've added my half ounce of Chambord. I'm just going to add, so cocktails are usually 6 to 8 ounces. I'm going to make this cocktail about 7 ounces. Actually, I'm going to make it about 6 ounces. When you pour in a wine cocktail, you don't want to over pour in the glass. You want to pour it just to the level of where the glass tapers. Always have to check on your good work. And now what I'm going to do, since I already basted it with my raspberry, I'm going to add one more raspberry because I really like the tart aspect. Now you see what I did there? One raspberry is floating, the other isn't. That's why I added that first raspberry, because I wanted it to sink and not float. Shit. Amazing. Good evening again, and welcome back. This is the second cocktail that I'm making for you all tonight. This is a spin on a classic cocktail. So the classic is called the Moscow Mule, which is vodka, lime juice, and ginger beer or ginger ale. I'm doing a spin on that called the Mezcal Mule. I'm a real big fan of mezcal. In fact, when I was living in New York and I, first got my bartender chops and learned a thing or two about making drinks, I was tried to show off, but really had fun introducing other, bartenders to, the beauty of combining mezcal with lime juice. Not everywhere had ginger beer, so I couldn't always go all the way, but if they had the ginger beer, then I would get to enjoy a free drink because the bartender would add that to their repertoire. But yeah, mezcal I really appreciate as a spirit. I feel like it's very unsung. Mezcal is made from the agave plant, like tequila. However, tequila only comes from one specific agave plant, the blue agave plant, whereas mezcal can come from many different agave plants. This Montelobo is from the Espadín agave. We're going to use that with Krabby's ginger beer and some fresh lime juice. I recommend fresh lime juice because it has the minimal amount of sugar, and the tartness really helps to corral the boldness of the mezcal. and the spice of the ginger beer. So the original cocktail was actually made in the U.S., not in Moscow, and it was a distiller's way of kind of bringing more popularity to his vodka. He made this cocktail in a copper mug, to like really preserve the refreshing quality. This cocktail is all about being refreshing. You have, the citrus filled with ice and, some nice spice from a cool ginger beer. But then it just has that boldness, a really good sipper on a warm summer day. But also, you can kind of play with the ingredients and make it a nice savory cocktail for the cold days of winter, as long as you have heat in your house. I hope you have heat in your house. If you don't have heat, probably should be making cocktails. Anyway, no judgment. I'm gonna start cocktails like this, very simple. You build right in the glass. I'm gonna start with the ice. I'm going fancy with my ice because if I was to serve this to someone, which I may be doing right after this, I would want my fingers all over their fresh ice. You really want to fill this up with ice. So I'm gonna get a little more ice just to fill. And yeah, catch out the bag. This is for me. So I'm gonna touch the rest of the ice I put in here. If you have larger cubes of ice in your ice maker, or you buy larger cubes of ice, it's probably better to crush it first. This tray has small cubes of ice, so I don't really need to crush it. But now we have it filled to the top with ice. Like my last cocktail, this is very simple. You build it right in the glass. Instead of the copper mug, I'm using the glass because this is designed to kind of hold aromas, and because the mezcal is a much more complex aroma profile as well as flavor profile than vodka, which is the principal in Moscow Mule. I think a glass is a better idea than a tin cup, or a copper cup rather. But this mezcal is organic and sustainably grown. It's from Oaxaca, the city of Oaxaca in Mexico, which is like where mezcal making practices, partly originated. So this is a simple cocktail that you definitely want to use the finest ingredients for. Once again, I'm going to use my little skull shot glass. I love it, but this is my measuring cup. It's 2 ounce pour. 2 ounces in there. Now you see why I had so much ice. And then this is my lime juice. Just gonna do ½ ounce of lime juice. Now this lime juice is infused with a little bit of ginger. I'm really a big fan of ginger, so I decided to up the ante. The traditional recipe does not call for ginger infused lime juice. That's a little extra, but feel free to have fun with that. This is from me to you. I hope you enjoy, and hopefully I can enjoy it with you one day, safely of course. Then the last is going to be my Krabby's ginger beer. Krabby's they make a very good alcoholic ginger beer. This is going to be a boozy cocktail, so all my bartenders that will be using this recipe when they're back behind bars, please consider your patrons' safety and health while making this type of cocktail. But if you're at home, have fun with it. You don't have to drive anywhere. I'm at home right now, and yet, cat's out the bag. I'm having this to drink, and I'm not driving anywhere, so I'm going to go ahead with this 4.8% alcohol. Now, I'm not going to pour it all the way to the top. I'm going to leave a little room. And I like having the ginger-infused lime juice because since this is an alcoholic ginger beer is going to have a slightly sweeter flavor profile because of that alcohol. And so the extra ginger keeps that kick that I love. But this is not it. I'm in Detroit, and of course I'm making a ginger, influenced cocktail. So if ginger is too much of a kick for you and the lime juice is just like not really toning the mezcal down enough, top it off with a little, special ingredient from Detroit with love, little Vernors. So once you top it off with your Vernors, now comes garnish, fresh lime. Now this drink does not require a shaker. However, if you were to shake it, you might want to shake a couple of wedges of your fresh lime in the cocktail. And voila, you have your mezcal mule. Oh, that smoky goodness right on the rim. That slight bite from the ginger, the smoke, just, the boldness really just, wafting, on my palate. And then the ginger giving that nice little kick to say, hey, you're having a good cocktail. I feel refreshed already. See you guys in July on the beach, or on the rooftop, or out, on the patio with this.
Welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed the presentations. Now let's welcome Chef Ederique Goudias and sommelier Randall Coats.
Hello.
That
Hey.
is wonderful. My mouth is watering on both sides. So let's start the conversation. Let's start with introductions of yourselves. So let's go with you, Ederique.
Yeah, good evening. So my name is Ederique Goudias. Everybody just calls me E. And I am originally from Louisiana. So grew up in Louisiana, a small town called Wallace, Louisiana, which is home to the Whitney Plantation. The Whitney Plantation is one of the only plantations in the country that is dedicated to the lives of enslaved people. And so I moved up to Michigan after I graduated college. So quite a few years ago. So I've been in Michigan and Detroit for a while, but I worked in the restaurant industry my entire career. So I am actually in the process of opening up a restaurant called Gabriel Hall. It is a Creole and Cajun restaurant, bar, and music venue located on the east side. So here in West Village on the corner of Kercherville and Van Dyke is where you will find us. And I also co-founded a consulting agency called In the Business of Food. So it is a food service consulting agency, write curriculum, teach workshops, also do some advising and coaching to small local food businesses here in the city of Detroit.
Wow, I haven't had Creole food since I was in Chicago, and I haven't been in Chicago since 2010. So I need some, right? I need to go get some of that. Anyway, what about you, Randall? So you are not just a mixologist, you are also a sommelier.
Yeah,
I said it right. Can you explain what that is?
sommelier or sommelier, as you know, it's pronounced in French, as close as I could get to it. There's a wine steward. What I look at it as is assisting, just helping guide people, to the best wine choice they can make, as best I can. I've been doing that for the past 4 years. I got my start in New York. I lived there for the better part of 7 years. Eventually moved overseas, helped open a wine bar and cafe, and I led the wine program there. I'm back in Detroit now. I'm back home, born and raised here. I'm back home, and I'm a server at Park Restaurant in Campus Martius.
We were talking earlier. No one knows this, but we were talking earlier, and you mentioned the difference between a liquor and a liqueur. Can you explain that to us?
I fact checked myself on that, so I'm gonna give you the amended answer from that last one. So liquor is a distilled spirit, essentially. You know, it goes through that distillation process. A liqueur, you know, is adding flavor to a distilled spirit. It may not be a specific distilled spirit, but you know, you distill it and then you add flavor to it. Jägermeister example I used earlier was like, you know, distilling, you know, and then adding like fermented herbs, you know, to that spirit. But there's like a lot of different types. They're usually lower in alcohol, like the Chambord, the liqueur I use with my cocktail, you know, lower in alcohol. But yeah, really good in making cocktails, you know, just adding that extra little bit without, you know, sacrificing the strength or integrity of the drink.
Okay, so now we have to get into that gumbo. So we have some questions about, you mentioned gumbo filet.
Filet, yes.
Filet, and people want to know what that is and where do you get it?
Yeah, so gumbo filet, it is the Choctaw Indians, their contribution to gumbo. It is ground sassafras leaves. So gumbo can either be thickened with okra. So okra is a thickening agent. Filet, the ground sassafras leaves, is another thickening agent, as well as aru, which is you know, a French technique. So equal parts flour and oil. So most people, you know, it's like, do you make a okra gumbo or do you make a filet gumbo? I mix it all together. I will add the roux, have a little bit of filet, maybe some okra in there. But those are all thickening agents. But sassafras leaves definitely have a very earthy flavor profile.
And so I know your recipe is online on our website, but someone wants to know, I can't remember who, but they want to know, how much garlic did you use?
6 cloves.
6 cloves of garlic. I would love it. Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering. And you know, one more question for you. What is the significance of gumbo? You know, what makes it, and what's special about the number of greens that you use?
So gumbo, the word gumbo actually is okra, means okra in many West African languages. But what you'll find is that a lot of times it's the French that got credited for making the first gumbo. And that's really because there was a long-standing habit of not giving kind of the African credit contribution to American cuisine. So it was very whitewashed. And so even though the French really were credited with gumbo, it's an African dish, and it came from Africa's contribution. And so a traditional gumbo could be, you know, is okra. The French way is definitely with the roux. And the gumbo I made in the video is a gumbo zerb, so it is all greens. And so the matriarch Leah Chase, who is the matriarch of Creole cuisine, she actually does a 9-green gumbo. We at Gabriel Hall, we do a 7-green gumbo. And so I had most of them were locally grown: collards, turnips, mustard, cabbage, spinach, kale, and Swiss chard. And so Leah Chase always says that it is good luck to use an odd number. And then the number of greens that you use is the number of friends that you'll make. And hopefully one of them are rich.
Sounds good to me. So Randall, I saw the movie Uncorked. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I did. So that was my first kind of view of African Americans getting that far into wine. So can you tell me, you know, how do you become a student, a sommelier? How do you become one? And how can others become one as well?
Well, it's all about tasting and studying different wines. And you have to like just taste and study a lot consistently until you like build your palate and at the same time build a base of knowledge. I took a wine course. It was through the WSET organization. I got my level 2 with merit certification. And so it was like focused on the foundational pieces of winemaking and, you know, wine itself. But yeah, there are a lot of books out. There's so much stuff on YouTube now, you know, like if you don't choose to take a course because you're not trying to, you know, maybe have a professional interest in wine, there's so many videos to watch. There's a lot of amazing books. My mentor, Andre Mack, he has a book that he's written, and it was like a wine memoir, but he also details, all the different bottles he's drank, or just the different bottles that have had impact in his life. But he's one of so many that have made books about their wine experience, but also shared their knowledge with it. It's really, experiencing and studying what you've experienced, to really become more knowledgeable in wine.
You two have me taking notes. I'm taking notes over here. So when you made your first cocktail, you used wine, and I have never really heard of a wine being paired with a liqueur. So how do you make it? How do you create a cocktail and know that it's compatible with a vegetarian dish?
A lot of it is all about flavor. Gumbo, for instance, has a ton of different flavors. I mean, you had all those different types of greens that I never imagined could go in a single dish. So really it's about, finding what matches up with the different flavors in a dish. There are vegan wines available as well if someone wants to take it, that step further, with a vegetarian dish or vegan dish. It's really about understanding what flavors are in the dish and how the wine will complement those flavors.
And so, Ederique, you talked about your Creole background. And so what other cultural influences guide your culinary practice?
Really, Cajun and Creole cuisine is mainly a lot of what drives what I do and what we do at Gabriel Hall. It's really an ode to, what's familiar and how I was raised. My grandfather had 3 gardens. And so we lived off the land. He raised hogs and he slaughtered them. And so, between gardening and him raising hogs or fishing, hunting, we really truly lived off the land. And I was raised on not only the Southern hospitality, but just all of the flavors of Louisiana. He would slaughter hogs and then make his own sausage and also smoke them himself. He would grow his own peppers and dry them and make his own ground cayenne pepper. So that's definitely what really heavily influences how I cook, my cooking style and technique, and what, of course, the cuisine that we want to have at Gabriel Hall.
Well, there's a lot of talk in the comment section about the number of greens that you used. And so can you tell us what farmers markets do you go to?
I love supporting my local farmers. We have, and many people don't know this, that we have over 1,800 farms and gardens in the city of Detroit.
And I know that.
Don't know that. I love supporting my farmers, and I love supporting my Black-owned farms. So Oakland Avenue, where I recently got some Swiss chard and spinach. She was growing those this winter. D-Town Farm. I love Mama Jerry over at Oakland Ave. Yeah. We have Baba Malik over at D-Town Farms. And then over here on the east side is Nurturing Our Seeds, which Erin and her husband run that really, that small family-owned farm. She has some amazing tomatoes. And last year she grew some Detroit watermelon as well as a lot of microgreens. So those are probably some of my favorite farmers. Over also Brother Nature, so Bragg over in Corktown.
I think I've been to all of them but one. I know Oakland. I know Brother Nature, and I know I'm going blank right now. There's a third one that I know. Malik's farm, yep. D-Town, yes. So Randall, what are 3 things you want everyone to know about wine?
3 things I want everyone to know about wine. First, and shout out to the DIA for, putting this together and giving me this opportunity, but wine is art. The technique comes from passion and it really kind of is how the winemaker expresses, like their style of winemaking and how they view wine. They kind of like they interpret the wine's beauty through their own lens. You know what I mean? There's no right way to do it. It's all about what's good. Over the years, palates have changed. The market has changed for a lot of reasons. Second, I want people to know that, learning about the winemaker is a lot more important, even if you don't care about, even if you're not looking to like know everything about wines, learning about the winemaker and where they, produce their wines and how they produce their wines is very important. And it can really like open your eyes to the world and give you another appreciation for wine. And last thing, I want people to know that, wine is about the experience. It's not about getting drunk. It has alcohol. You are intended to get a buzz after having, however many glasses, but, the best experiences I've had, are not the ones where I've just been like stumbling, wasted, which, those have happened, but the ones where, like I drank a wine that I felt like was speaking to me, and I felt like I had a connection with, and so a story I love to share is once at my grandmother's house. It was Memorial Day weekend, barbecue grill is going, and we have, ribs, chicken, nice, tangy, sweet barbecue sauce. My grandmother has a Portuguese wine that was sent to her. And, Portuguese wines are really good with, grilled meat. She wanted to open it before, it wasn't good anymore. So I opened it. And this was when I was like in the beginning of my journey. But we just made this discovery, and the whole rest of the day was about having another rib, having another sip. It wasn't like you wanted to stay sober so you could eat more, but you also wanted to drink so you could be more hungry. And so it was an experience that we always talk about and never forget. And I feel like sharing those types of experiences, like kind of makes the world a better place. Not to, be on my NBC after school special, but I think the experience is a lot more important than the effect.
And so real quick, can you give us a vineyard?
A vineyard.
Yeah, or winery that we can kind of support.
Let's see, Early Mountain. They're in Virginia. They're awesome. Osmo. A good friend of mine, his name is Ben Riccardi. That's in Finger Lakes, upstate, Finger Lakes region, upstate New York. Let's see, my guys, my mentor, Andre Mack, Maison Noir, his wines are from Oregon. Lafette Rosé, they're actually two guys from Atlanta. They're based in Atlanta, but their wines are from Saint-Tropez, France. I could really go a long time with this. Let me get a couple more in there.
Good on that. So, Ederique, so what we know you do gumbo. What other recipes that are culturally significant, or just something from your family that's a recipe that stands out in your memory as an inspiration to you?
One thing for sure that stands out and that that is probably a fan favorite, definitely with Gabriel Hall at our pop-ups and caterings, is my grandmother's Creole cornbread. So it is definitely sweeter than, I guess, traditional cornbread. My friends like to call it cornbread cake. Of cornbread and cake. And so that's one of the things that is really enjoyed by anybody that comes at any of our pop-ups. But it is one of those things that I would watch my grandmother make, and her measuring cup was a teacup. There was no measuring cups, one cup. And so she had 7 children, so you can just imagine the number of grandchildren and great grandchildren she had, and I was the only one that sat there and watched her so that I could get the recipe before she passed away. And so that's probably one of my biggest inspirations. Plus, just watching my grandparents, farm land, and then, eating off of what they grew. Because it wasn't until my grandfather passed away when I was 16 that I knew what it was like to go to a grocery store and buy produce. We ate what he grew, and it's definitely different.
It is different. I think Randall had a question for you.
Yeah, the Creole cornbread. Have you ever heard that called holiday bread? Because it sounds a lot like something that my great grandmother kind of like brought up here from Louisiana, and then like she taught my grandmother how to make.
I have not heard of holiday bread. I've heard of spoon bread, but I haven't heard of holiday bread.
Well, I mean, we're not a monolith, so there could be a lot of iterations, but that sounded really familiar. Yeah, I'm excited about your place opening up. Like,
so now you gotta tell us what spoon bread is.
I've only had a friend of mine, her grandmother makes it, and I've only had it from her. She's originally from Virginia. So it's a different type of, it's almost like a little like creamier in the middle. But it's definitely like that sweetness from like a traditional kind of cornbread. But you spoon it, like it's that kind of soft. So it's not something that you just pick up with your hand and like eat with like greens. You actually have to use a spoon or a fork to eat.
Wow, you need to have that in your restaurant so everyone can taste it at least once.
I will consider it, but this is her grandmother's recipe.
Oh, okay.
To go, all right, can I get that? But we call her Gabby. We love her.
So Randall, I keep telling you that I'm kind of new to the home bar thing. So what kind of tools do I need to equip my home bar? Something basic.
So you want a shaker. That's how you like, chill drinks without having to have ice in them. You can also like kind of chill your cocktail and then pour it over ice. It really helps concentrate the flavor, distribute the flavor and then give it a nice froth at the top. You want, and I said measuring cup because what I was using was not a jigger, but a jigger is the tool that bartenders use to measure the shots. Let's see. You want your different types of glassware, your Collins, your rocks, your wine glasses, red, white, sparkling. As far as wine glasses, you don't necessarily need a flute. A flute is more for looks. In my, what I found. And then as far as your, different wines and spirits, you definitely want, vodka and gin. There's a lot of different cocktails you can make with both. Whiskey, for your brown liquor, cognac, is a good digestive or like after dinner drink. And yeah, there's a lot of awesome styles of cognac other than, what we know and love and hear about all the time. What else? And then you want some triple sec. So triple sec is an orange liqueur. It's the citrus that a lot of the common cocktails use. As far as wines, you want 2 whites, 2 reds, medium and full bodied of each. And a little sparkling in there too, so you can make a Kid Royale.
You're going past my budget right now. I have to start small. So in terms of Ederique, in terms of cooking utensils, and supplies, what are the things that you go to constantly in your kitchen that you can recommend, like 3 or 4 things?
Mortar and pestle. So you can grind up your spices, really make a paste or a powder. That is one of those things that I think every kitchen should definitely have, and I use often. Also cast iron, skillets and pots. Listen, ain't nothing better than a cast iron, whether you're trying to fry some chicken or bake some cornbread. Cast iron is it. And then also wooden spoons, just like you saw me using that. That is my go-to tool. I will pull a wooden spoon out before I pull out a metal spoon or a rubber spatula.
And do you have a brand of wooden spoon? Because I have some old ones. I have to get rid of them. So
try to get bamboo if you can, but that I don't have a particular brand.
And so, Randall, let's do some like kind of shout outs, if you can. Do you have any African American or other brands? I think you mentioned some that we should be aware of. But because it's African American, because it's Black History Month, if you know some African American brands of liqueurs or liquors or wines that you can share.
Yeah, just going back down the list, Du Nord, brother from Minneapolis, Minnesota, Chris. In fact, from Louisiana, actually, Iris Rideau, and she's one of the first Black female winemakers in the country. But she's Rideau Vineyards in Santa Ynez, California. Let's see. Sip and Share Wines, Markel Bonnie in Cincinnati. I have a few mixologists that I follow as well that, are like awesome ladies. That was a question you had earlier, Sharon. But yeah, the big ones, Brown Estates, Maison Noir, these are like big labels that they're big for us. And they're also like highly respected in the wine world that I feel like could become like household names in all of our households. These are like down to earth people that are really for us, as well as, they're really good at what they do. You know what I mean? Lafette Rosé, their rosé, they just started bottling a few years ago, and they're already winning like 95 pluses from like the big wine critic publications,
And I have a question from what is her name or his name, Damon. He wants to know, can you suggest a biodynamic red wine?
Good biodynamic red wine. Let's see. Ooh, off the top, I would have to go to my notes. Biodynamic is probably the most specific of those, like, sustainable, organic, biodynamic. But yeah, Damon, I could definitely shoot you one on the message or on the post. I can get you that information, no problem. I'd be happy to. And I'll definitely find you like a Black-owned biodynamic winemaker. I believe Aslina, South African, and she's actually the first Black, female winemaker from South Africa. I believe she uses biodynamic winemaking technique practices. And for all those who don't know, biodynamic winemaking is using the moon cycles, to for your growing your grapes. You grow your grapes based on the moon cycles.
So let me go over to Ederique. So Ederique, can you do some shout outs for us? Some chefs that you kind of follow or you work with?
Yeah, so I'm definitely inspired by the late great Leah Chase, who, like I said, is like the matriarch of Creole cuisine, but who I follow, Michael Twitty, who is an amazing not only chef but culinary historian. He actually won 2 James Beard Awards for his book, The Cooking Gene. And then you have Mashama Bailey over at The Gray in Savannah, Georgia. She just released Black, White, and the Gray, which is her book. And Tony Tipton Martin, who's an author, but also Brian Terry. You have Eduardo Jordan out in Seattle, and Adrian Lipscomb, who is owner of Uptown Cafe in Wisconsin. And here in Detroit, I'm probably most inspired by Kiki Luya, who just finished filming Top Chef Portland.
Oh, nice. And so, we're almost out of time, but I want you guys to tell me what you're doing going forward. So let's start with you, Ederique. What's happening coming up?
Yeah, so like I said, we're in the process of opening Gabriel Hall on the east side. So right down West Village on the corner of Kercheval and Van Dyke. We're currently under construction. So we are available for caterings, and then we'll be starting back with pop-ups very soon. So definitely follow us. And then I just also co-created an initiative called Taste of Diaspora Detroit. This first event is concluding at the end of Black History Month, but we are moving forward with more events, and we look to remain active throughout the year. Our next event will likely be for Juneteenth.
Sounds wonderful. So, Randall, what's going on with you coming up?
Well, I just coming back to Detroit. So, finding my footing, reestablishing myself. Like I said, I'm at Park Restaurant. And there's a lot of great wines there. If you ever come down there, ask for me. I can definitely point you to some good juice. But yeah, more focusing on building my brand, Wine for the People. I started as a podcast, but it's all about me getting people to wine and getting wine to people. So honestly, I'm just trying to open myself up, to all the questions, been doing a lot of virtual events lately. If anybody has interest in a virtual event, my information was on the, opening screen. Please reach out. But yeah, just getting wine to as many people as possible and building that culture here in Detroit.
That's really great. I have to tell Ederique that folks are loving the shirt. So what does this shirt say? I can see a little bit of it.
Yeah, black mixed with hot water cornbread, collard greens, awesome personality, style, beauty, strength, respect, hustle, but mostly black.
Hey.
All right, now I like that.
So, and I got this locally. So, SB Thomas, who co-owns Sweet Potato Sensations, another Detroit, amazing institution. She has a shop called Naturally Fly, and so I got the shirt from my sis SB.
I know that's my place. She knows me very well. So I think we are just about at the end. I do have one other question for you, Ederique. What Caribbean or Creole or Cajun places already exist in Detroit that you can recommend?
Yeah, so some of my favorites, Detroit Soul is an amazing soul food restaurant, and their family is from Alabama. So it's Alabama style soul food. Can't forget about Detroit Vegan Soul, of course, but then also Norma G's here on the east side. It is Trinidadian food. And then Baobab Fair just opened up in New Center area. So that is West African. He just opened up this week. And then one that I absolutely love, which is outside of the city in Pontiac, is called Flavors of Jamaica.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check those out because I haven't eaten at home. It's been pretty basic over here, and I'm gonna have to check out those all the wines that you kind of recommended and things, Randall, because I'm starting my bar and it's very, very minimal right now. And I just want to thank you guys for participating in this program. I mean, this event. It's been great. It's been great talking to everyone.
Thank you.
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from all the chefs and all the mixologists. And because I'm a vegetarian, this is kind of close to my heart. Or I try to be a vegetarian most of the time. So thank you all. I just, and hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you both for allowing me to be with you all for this.
It was fun. Well, thank you all for joining in. We want to thank the Tellums, Aaron and Nancy Tellum, for helping fund our Black History Month programs. And we also want to thank TD Bank. Please check our website for our last programs for the month and check the website for our current exhibitions. Thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you all when we get back to the museum full time.